But I would like to, at this time, take a moment to introduce our guest speaker. We are extremely lucky. We have Senator Jimmy Higdon with us today. He's going to talk to us about some of the things that he's doing for our state government, particularly, I think, about the pill mills, which is one of the focuses and one of the areas where we're most interested in at this point. Senator Higdon represents the 14th District. That includes Marion, Mercer, Nelson, Taylor, and Washington counties. He was elected to the Kentucky Senate in 2009. Senator Higdon serves on the Appropriations and Revenue Committee, the Licensing and Occupation Committees, State and Local Government Committees, the Education Committee, the Program Review and Investigations Committee, the Tobacco Settlement, I'm going to have to take a breath here, and Oversight Committees, the Transportation Committee. In addition, he is also the chairman of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Transportation. At this time, I would like for you to give a very warm welcome to Senator Jimmy Higdon.
Well, thank you. It's indeed an honor to be here today to speak. And students, I'd like to start out by speaking to you, and it's really great to see you here today. I know you're spending time away from school, and sometimes that's a good thing, and especially if you're here on the mission that you are today to help to become more aware of your surroundings and the problems in your community. And you know, I started years ago in my county, in Marion County, advocating against teenage drinking. And at that time, drugs were an issue, but it wasn't a teenage issue. It was more with the older generation. And I think we've made some strides in Marion County, and I'm sure you have here in Washington County. And one of the things that we have in Marion County, and I think you have here, is a project graduation, where and that helped. It seemed like every year in Marion County there was graduation parties, and we would lose some of our young people to tragic car accidents. And so the project graduation has helped with that, but we have a long way to go. And students, I admire that you're involved in this, because you're working very hard on your education. You're just out there trying to do the right things for the right reasons. And one bad decision can change your life forever, whether it's driving drunk or riding with a friend who's been drinking or experimenting with drugs. And today, in today's society and today's technology, a lot of these prescription drugs that teenagers are experimenting with are very addicting. And you might think that you can try it one time and that's it, but that's not the case. The only way that you can prevent, to guarantee that you do not become addicted to drugs or alcohol, is to never start. And that's what I ask of you today, is do not experiment with drugs and alcohol. And parents, and you know, when they do surveys at school and they ask students where did they get the alcohol the first time that they consumed alcohol, and most of the time the answer is they got it at home. So be sure, if you have teenagers in the house, my dad used to say all the time that one child might be the best kid in town, never done anything wrong, but you put two or more children together unsupervised, and you never know what might happen. So parents, if you know, remember that if your teenagers are home alone, and be sure that you take precautions, because one of the group will want to experiment, and it might be your alcohol that they experiment with. Same way with prescription drugs. A lot of kids, the first time that they try narcotics is narcotics that they find in the medicine cabinet at home. or other kids at school have found narcotics in their medicine cabinet and brought them to school. So be aware, these problems are real. Last year in Kentucky, more young people died of drug overdoses than in car accidents. And that is very alarming. And notice I said young people. This addiction is when you read in the paper, and seems like it's every week I read in the Enterprise of the Springfield Sun, that a young person has passed away, somebody in their 20s or somebody in their early 30s. And most of the time, you know, it's not natural causes. It has to do with drugs and drug overdoses. And unfortunately, most of these drugs that are causing the overdoses are prescription painkillers. So we have a real problem in Kentucky, as across the country, with the illegal use of prescription drugs. Back when I was first elected into the Senate in 2010, Elizabeth Torrey from E-Town was trying to pass a bill to combat against pill mills. And what a pill mill is a doctor's office that opens up, and they have no intentions of actually seeing patients. They're only there to write prescriptions to anybody that walks in the door with $200 cash. And they write a prescription for whatever narcotic it is that you want. That's what a pill mill does. And they disguise themselves as pain management clinics. Well, anyway, Elizabeth Torrey had introduced this bill in the state Senate, and she asked me about co-sponsoring or supporting the bill, and you know, I wasn't concerned because it didn't concern my district. I thought that doesn't happen in Marion, Washington, Taylor, Nelson, or Mercer County, and she never did get really enough support to pass her bill. That very summer in Lebanon, I was working in my appliance store, and a lady called me one day. Of course, Marion County is a lot like Washington County. We've put people all over the state. There's somebody, no matter what part of the state you go to, you can find somebody from Marion or Washington County. We've sent them everywhere. So I had a young lady from eastern Kentucky that was actually my neighbor. And she called me and she said, I'm in Olive Hill, Kentucky, looking at the newspaper, and there's an ad in the newspaper for a pain management clinic in Lebanon. And I said, it must be a mistake. I know my town, and there's no pain clinics in Lebanon. She said, okay, it must be a mistake. Because Olive Hill, if you know Kentucky geography, it's probably over 200 miles from Lebanon. Well, she calls me back a little later in the day. She says, I'm back home in Grayson, and the same ad is in the Grayson paper, which is, again, is over 200 miles from Lebanon. And I said, well, give me the address. And she says, well, it's in the Lebanon Trade Center. And I said, don't think it's there, but I'll go check. And I left and went to the Lebanon Trade Center, and lo and behold, big sign, Pain Management Clinic. So I contacted the Lebanon Police Department, and my son, who is a journalist, kind of did a little undercover work and found out who the owners and who the doctor was. And like I said, the Lebanon Enterprise did a front page story on it, but we observed what was going on, and people would come in the van loads. A 15-passenger van with 15 or 16 people in it would park at this pain management clinic, and all of them would get out, and they'd all go in, and they would come back out with a prescription for this whatever narcotic it was that they wanted, and then they would go to a drugstore and have that prescription filled. Then they would sell those narcotics. So it was I guess kind of a vicious circle, and a lot of them that were selling them were probably using them also, and that probably wasn't the only stop that they made that day to get pain pills. But anyway, and inside the door, it was kind of funny. My son took a picture of it right inside the door. It says, do not park at the front door. Leave that for the UPS truck. Park on the other side of the parking lot. And it also, and then it said, if we're not open, do not wait at the front door. Go to one of the neighboring businesses and wait till we open. They didn't want anybody calling attention to this place. So anyway, about 3 weeks in the middle of the night, they left Lebanon. And so that's the next session in 2011, I filed a bill to combat peel meals. And we got through the session. I really didn't have a whole lot of luck with it. Again, I didn't find a whole lot of people that were sympathetic to the cause. It had always been, people thought that it was an Eastern Kentucky problem. And you know, I'd found out that I thought it was an Eastern Kentucky problem too. I didn't think it would happen to Central Kentucky, but I found out real quick it did. And I think you found out yesterday that you all have a connection to that. So it can happen in any community. But anyway, I did get together a coalition. I had the Van Ingram, who works for the Governor's Office of Drug Policy. I had somebody from the Kentucky State Police working with me. I had somebody from the League of Cities. I had a representative of the Board of Medical Licensure working with me. And we met quite often after the session was over, trying to come up with a bill to and to gather some interest among other legislators for this peel meal bill. Well, just so happened in 2011 we had a governor's race going on, and a lot of publicity started coming out about these illegal peel meals and the deaths that they were causing. Like I said, the statistic was released that more young people in Kentucky were dying from the illegal use of prescription drugs than were dying in automobile accidents, and it started to pick up steam, and the governor got interested in it, and he started calling people in. And just by dumb luck, me being associated with it, everyone that he called in, they said, well, we've been working with Jimmy Higdon on that issue. So the governor calls me in and wants me to help, and so in 2012, Speaker Stumbo files a peel meal bill in the House, and I file a peel meal bill in the Senate, and do a lot of work on it. It's a very complicated subject, and it goes deeper than just peel meals. That was the face of illegal drug use, or illegal use of prescription drugs in Kentucky. That was the ones that we could see that was really bad. But there were other doctors and doctors' offices across the state, and you know, most doctors, 99% of the doctors in Kentucky were dispensing narcotics the right way. But we had a few in the state that weren't. So our first task was, we have a system in Kentucky called the Casper system. So the first part of the bill required every doctor's office to use the Casper system. And that was a step in the right direction. And what Casper does, we had a issue going on in Kentucky that we called, you would call it doctor shopping. And what somebody would do, they would go to multiple doctors and complain of back pain or whatever kind of pain, or they'd go to the emergency room and complain. And they would go to all these different places, and the doctors would write them a prescription. Then they would go to the drugstore, and they might have 8 or 10 prescriptions for OxyContin. And they would take those drugs and sell them. And so it became a major issue, but that was just the face of the problem. The problem ran a lot deeper. We had people on Medicaid in Kentucky where they were actually going to the doctor too and doctor shopping, which under the old Medicaid system before managed care they could get by with. So not only did we have people paying for prescription drugs and paying to go to the doctor, we had people that the government was paying, Medicaid was paying for their doctor's visit, and Medicaid was paying for their prescription drugs that they were going and selling. Man, trust me, I used to be in retail, and there's a real markup if you don't pay anything for something and you sell it for $50. Some real markup, and very lucrative. So this problem had gotten very bad in Kentucky, and in fact we saw some statistics, and one of the things that the old Casper system, before we required doctors to enter their information, I saw in 2011 I saw a state map, and it showed the state map of where there was 5 counties in Kentucky that dispensed more prescription drugs per capita than any other counties in the state. 2 of them were in eastern Kentucky, 2 of them were in western Kentucky, and the other one was Marion County, right in the middle of the state. So again, we had issues. And like I said earlier, you know, you think it can't happen to you. Students, you think it won't happen to you. You think that if you experiment with drugs, that you won't become addicted. Or your friends think they can experiment with drugs and they won't become addicted. These painkillers today, with the science that we have today, they are very, very addicting. And so the only way to prevent addiction is to never start. So that's my message to you today, young people. Please, please, never experiment with drugs. Never. Because they are stronger than you are. And they're designed that way. They're designed to be addictive. And they're a lot smarter than we are. So don't ever take the first pill. And I'd ask that don't take that first drink until you're 21. And please, please, don't drink and drive. And please don't ride with someone who's been drinking. You know, that's our job is to see that you graduate from high school and you go on to be productive citizens. And that's what I wish for each and every one of you here today. And to go on and be to go to college or go into the workforce, whatever it is you're going to do. One of the things, if you talk to industry today, one of the things that industry is struggling with today is finding qualified workers to work. And a lot of industries are having problem finding people who can pass a drug test. And as simple as it sounds, passing a drug test is a big deal when you're seeking employment. So I hope I've shed some light on a few things for you today. But the prescription drugs and pill meals, it is a problem in Kentucky. And like I said, House Bill 1 has done a very good job in starting to really put a stranglehold on the pill meals, because now with the Casper information, the information that we get from doctors when they write a prescription, or from the drugstores when they fill a prescription, if somebody's dispensing drugs illegally, they're leaving a real paper trail today with the Casper system. And it makes it a whole lot easier for us to make an arrest, and a whole lot easier for the Attorney General's office or the Kentucky State Police or the Washington County Sheriff's Department or Springfield Police Department. It just makes it a lot easier for law enforcement to combat this issue. But it all starts right here today. But please remain drug-free, and I appreciate your work with this coalition. And if I can ever be of assistance to any of you, please don't hesitate to give me a call. And thank you for allowing me to be here today to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that.